Hello, hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Good morning, good evening, good night, wherever you're joining from. My name is Alyssa, and I am very excited for our guest today to be talking about WebStorm. Hello, Jan, and it's Nicholas.
Nicholas.
Nicholas. I'm like practicing. I'm gonna get it
Yeah.
right. It's so good to see you again. I think I got to
Yeah.
see you at DevReach in
Right.
Bulgaria recently,
Right.
so it's good
Yeah.
to see you online. And
Yeah.
our two panelists with us today, we've got Mike. Hello, Mike.
Hello. Happy Friday.
Happy Friday. And we also have Justin joining us. Hello, darling.
Hey, what's going on?
So WebStorm updates.
Yes.
Tell us what's the deal? What's hip
Okay.
happening?
So we have our colleagues have been very busy with WebStorm for this release to make everything ready for like Angular 17 by Mike. I'll miss you. And every time I was like in a call and was like, "Hey, this feature would be cool," our colleague was like, "It's done," and I'm like, "Cool, cool." So we have like a bunch of stuff in the release that I'm super happy to show, but like talk is cheap, right? Like I can like talk about it all day. Like I thought, and like as prepared as I am as a developer advocate, I always have to be prepared. I thought just jump into the project and play
Excellent.
with a lot with it. So I cannot put my IDE up, but one of you can. Perfect. Is it big enough, like zoom wise and stuff?
I think so. What do you think, Justin? Is it any bigger? Is it good? I don't. I have like
Yeah, maybe one more bump
Okay.
up.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That's the biggest one.
Okay, then we're good.
Cool. So let's start with like maybe the cheap and easy things. Like my first contribution to the IntelliJ platform, and for a while probably the only one. Let's go to the settings and look at my accomplishment. Because if you have not seen it, Angular has a super fancy new logo.
Hang on for a sec. We see your editor, but not any pop-ups. So I'm assuming settings is over top of.
Ah,
Shucks. Shucks. That's what you were going to say.
yes, because yes.
Golly wobbers.
Let me...
It's a good one.
What?
You gotta make them up, Mike. Especially near the holidays. You gotta be festive with your curse words.
No.
Let's do entire screen.
Hardcore.
Maybe.
So this is a full-blown American podcast, so I cannot curse. Is that correct?
Oh,
I'll do what you want.
I don't know. Are we
Mike made up the
rated on YouTube? I have no idea how that works. Like, Justin, did we set that like 18?
I don't know. If you let it fly, then we'll find out if we're rated or not. I don't know. Maybe there's a checkbox we had to check. I can't remember.
Sorry, I have to rant a little bit, but this new Mac update where when you click on the background where like all windows go away, it's like super annoying.
It is. Also, is there a way to disable it? I haven't hunted yet, but I was like, surely.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's stupid and it's annoying.
I'm not sure who wants this. I would love to talk to the person who's like, yeah, that feature saved my life.
Yeah. Okay, I just before this call set up or installed WebStorm 2023.3, which is the version out because I still have the next one already installed. So let's jump to the project that I actually want to show. And it has the this one. Okay, so what I wanted to show actually is the fancy new logo. And let's see if we this time have icons. Do you see? Yes, you see the pop-up. Okay, so we go back to zoom to 100%, and the fancy new logo is in the settings under plugins. You will see if we look for Angular, a super fancy new logo. I know, mind-blowing. This was a huge contribution. I actually, when I did that change, I broke the test with that. So it sounded like my boss was like, you just changed an icon? Like, are you really that proud of it? And I was like, I had to figure out how to run the test and stuff. And like running an IDE, like developing an IDE in an IDE just to run the IDE is like inception and was super weird, but kind of cool.
Also, no one should shame you. Even if you did, even if there was no testing, you just got icons. You could be excited.
I was very excited. I was still very excited. But so we have this new logo that's pretty cool. It also pops up when you are in a component, for instance. Like which one? The card button is a good component. Like if you use any of the new control flow syntax, like it has those, like for everything Angular specific, it pops this icon to the side. And that brings us to the next one. We have basic support for control flow syntax. There are still things, as you see here, that we're working on. So we have strict template type checking, but not for control flow syntax yet. That's probably coming in the next minor. So if we go to the products list components, for instance, here, we're using the for block to iterate over something, and we're losing the type here right now in 2023.3. This is going to be fixed in the next version. The thing I like a lot about, though, is related to this little guy. And we have a refactored version here already, but this is a signal. It should be a signal.
Was it not? Was it?
It should be a signal. It is a signal. So one thing that we have for signals in store is in the settings again. If we go to signals in the color scheme, you can actually define a custom color for your for signal types.
Nice.
This sounds easy and stuff. Why is it not displaying the color?
What color did you pick? Did you pick blue?
It was like a bluish color. Let me. Okay, this might be an issue with Signal Store here. Let me jump to a different example that is a little bit condensed. I have this sample project that might be a little bit better. Yes. So, okay. So there's my custom signal color. I think that is an issue with Signal Store that we have there from NGX, which is super cool. If you have not used it, check it out. I was like working with it and was like, okay, this is either black magic or freaking cool. So far, I'm leaning to it's pretty cool.
Pretty cool. It could be both. Both is acceptable.
Both is reasonable. So yeah, you can define custom colors for signals, and I like this a lot because you don't get it's a different mindset that you need to embrace. You need to remember calling the function expression, which usually the Angular developers are like, don't do this. You better not do this.
So I know. We are kind of breaking a paradigm here where people are going to be like, accept.
Yes. So this is a thing that I like. The other thing that I like about this is that this technically opens the door, if this is a feature that is used very much, to use TypeScript types to provide color highlighting. So ideally, if this is a feature that is relevant or required or interesting, we could use this to provide custom colors based on a type, like observables, hooks in React, refs in Vue, and those things that have a special meaning in the framework. To provide custom colors for that could be a cool thing. There's cool music in the background.
I like that a lot. I mean, I think that from visual quick, scan of your code, that those things will stand out, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
And particularly if you have things like this, it tells this starts to look weird, and you're like, wait, maybe I should do something here. So, I like this a lot. It wasn't mentioned super publicly on all the release documentation, but I think for Angular developers, this is a great feature. We do have small things, we call them live templates, I think, which I think is a stupid name. We call them snippets.
Can't change it now. It's been live templates forever, right? Everybody knows it.
Doesn't make it a better name. So we can generate signals for you very conveniently. And this is one thing where we are greatly appreciate input from the community. When patterns with signals and stuff like that start to establish more, we can adapt them, bring them back to the IDE. Hi Mike, how have you been? It's been a while. We missed you.
Sorry, I had somebody pop by.
No, you're fine. So live templates is a cool thing, but if there's any feedback where you're seeing a pattern that you use often, Ineo, for instance, on Twitter put out his pattern for input signals. And he has developed his own live his own live template for it, which I had at some point in mine. But so those are cool things, and that's feedback that we can use because we're in a similar boat as the Angular team with that. Like we're developing the tool, but we're not developing Angular applications on a daily basis. Like I'm probably more than like 99% on my team, but it's definitely valid input and that we would greatly appreciate. So making
What's the shortcut for the live template?
Oh, that's a good one. It's Apple J. Actually, it's also in the lower corner. I can also, for those folks.
Did you just say Apple? Like that's a
Like old school.
what is an
I can.
What is
also,
an Apple
It
key?
used to be the Apple key. It's the
What the
command
frick are
key
you?
now.
There's no apples on my keyboard, man. What are you talking about? Are you talking about function?
It's the command.
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 I'm on Windows and I know this.
I freaking don't know how you knew that.
I can also put on the Windows keyboard shortcut. So Command J and Control J.
Oh, I see.
Because I know jack shit about the. Sorry, I'm not supposed to curse. I know nothing about the Windows shortcuts.
And just to be clear, that the blue that's showing up at the bottom, that's not in WebStorm. That's you have a
No,
separate thing that's.
that is a WebStorm feature.
Oh, it
That's-
is?
It
Okay.
is called Presentation Assistant. It used to be a plugin, but in this release we shipped it as part of the IDE, so it comes installed. You can just look in. So Shift is basically taking you wherever you want in WebStorm. If you want to learn keyboard shortcuts, start with Shift. It takes you literally everywhere.
My favorite presentation assistant ever was Justin.
Yeah, mine was Mike, so recursive. But that's cool. Like next to the zoom feature, we could zoom the entire thing. Yeah, I mean that's another awesome feature for presenting content using WebStorm. That's awesome.
Yes. That's the other thing that we have new. We call them quick fixes. Like call them whatever you want. I don't really care. But if you have your component and you start to defining something on that, even if it doesn't exist, like hey, my type ahead, in my type ahead component, I want to know if something was selected, right? So I call it selected and I call some function with $event. What it will tell me to do is I can create an input for that automatically. So in my type ahead component, it creates an input for that. The type is unknown, so you go in here and say, okay, the selected, I select a character, I think is the type that I have for that. Okay, the presentation.
And this is new?
This is new, yes.
Okay, that's cool.
So
What happens if you're on a component and that component also has a directive on it? Does it know yet?
Oh, that's interesting. Let's see. Okay, let's call it directive.
Sorry, I didn't want to.
No, that's very. That's.
I'm getting excited, so
I like it.
I want to try this.
We also have live templates for directives and components. So if you're like quick and dirty going in somewhere and just.
Right.
Usually, I would recommend using the Angular CLI for those things, which we use under the hood, I think. But so some test directive. I'm very creative, and that tells me now to make it standalone. That's another thing. We used to have this thing where it says like, "Hey, this is not part of a module. Are you really sure this shouldn't be part of any module?" And then it looks in the file tree like, "Okay, what's the closest module? Do you want to put it there?" Now with standalone being the default for Angular components, we said, okay, let's make it just standalone. Start with standalone. Okay, back to the original thing. So in here, let's delete the output again. If I'm jumping too quick between the windows, let me know. I hear that quite often because, yeah. We have our type ahead. Okay, and we now put our directive on here too. Some test. That is another thing. If you use a directive and things, it tells you like, hey, do you want to import this? Works for standalone, and this even works for things like ngIf, whatever. I don't really care. Sure. If I wouldn't have common module already imported here, it would tell me to import ngif, so you have it a little bit better tree shakeable and don't just import the entire common module. Sorry.
And that one's been around for a little bit. Right, that's all
right.
right.
We just adjusted it for standalone to also not import the module anymore, but the standalone component. Therefore, have it a little bit more fine-grained.
Nice.
Well, does that auto import also work for? Oh, actually, never mind. I was going to ask
yes.
for control flow, but there are no separate
No,
imports because
then no.
it's built in the framework.
Yes.
Never mind. Answer my own question. I'll remute.
Okay, so we want to create an output selected, and it tells us whether we want to put it in the directive or the component.
Look at that magic.
Piotr, if you're watching that,
That's straight awesomeness. That's not black magic. That's awesomeness.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not calling it right now.
That's impressive. And that's the thing, like, every time I'm coming with like edge cases like that, our developer is like, yeah, I got that.
Okay.
There you go.
I think, and he has this saying like, nothing is impossible in coding, which is true, but it's infuriating. And it just makes me prove him wrong, which I have not been able to so far. But
I'm not gonna lie. I try and find holes every once in a while.
Yeah, if you find one, let me know. It would be like Christmas and Easter for me on the same day. But
Oh, there you go. All right.
all right. So we have that covered. What else? One thing I have a hate-love relationship. Actually, it's just a hate relationship with enums.
I don't think I've ever heard someone who had beef with an enum.
That's the worst.
I have beef with an enum too.
Oh, wow.
You
I
see?
It's not, I don't know if it's that strong, but it should be probably.
I just think no one needs enums and just use a damn string.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I can see that, yeah.
Okay, but if you're working with enum, so let's create a new file. Some useless enum.ts. And like the common thing is like some kind of permission, right? So you do like expert enum permission. And you have like allowed, not allowed. I can type. Okay, let's check the TypeScript config real quick. And we have verb to module syntax activated, which is already infuriating that we even need things like that. Because enums are stupid. So the problem with enums, usually TypeScript has this very strict rule of like, okay, they're not inventing features that are not in the JavaScript standard. Except for enums.
Right. No, yeah, I see you. I see you on that. Okay.
So the problem that leads to is enums are types, but also values at runtime. So usually when you're importing something like this, you're dealing with a type. In most cases. Enums kind of break this. So what we can do is we can treat an enum as a type or a value. And TypeScript needs information like, the fuck are you talking about here? So what we're doing is, okay, we have some enum, right? And we assigned a type to it, and I called it permission, right? Yes. So in that case, TypeScript now automatically imports it as a type based on the context, so that you don't have to deal with this, because it's stupid.
Wait, so WebStorm did that import statement for us?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Cool.
Yes. And I think I have it activated that auto import. Let me check, because you can also have it basically that it that as long as the import is not ambiguous, this setting, while you type, a WebStorm will just import it automatically for you. I like this setting a lot. And particularly if you're just working in an Angular application, we usually try to have not ambiguous imports anyway. So this makes it a little bit easier. And if we do this again now, just while I type permission here, I'm not doing anything. Like I didn't put anything, but the import statement is already back. So you don't have to bother that much about imports. But the other thing that you can do with stupid enums is use them as a value, which I talked about. So let's have some function. I'm great with names, by the way, in case you haven't realized that. And we take, or we just use switch statement, for instance, like switch some this.some enum. And then we would do something like permission.allowed. And now this is a value, not a type anymore, because allowed has actually the value 0. So what happens now is, sorry, I should not say. So what happens now is the TypeScript compiler says, hey, you're using permission here as a value, but you import it as a type. That is bullshit. So let's fix that, which there should be. There's this setting, which removes the type. But also on the other hand, if we didn't, let me turn off the unambiguous imports again. But there's also the setting that if we don't have this, and you go in here, it tells you now to import it as a value, and in here, it would say import it as a type. I personally am missing this thing where it checks the whole file and not just the instance that you're looking at. I think that would be a neat feature, and then to automatically fix that for you. That would make the experience a little bit nicer for my, but I wanted to create a ticket for that. I hope I did already. I should check this after this episode. So that's a nice thing, because verbatim module syntax is, in my opinion, just like a band-aid on a broken system called enums. So this makes it at least a little bit easier to deal with this. All right, are there questions, anything? Otherwise, I'll just keep talking for the next 2 hours.
Not yet. I was checking. Yeah, I think we're good.
Cool. Okay.
Just keep jumping.
One thing we have that people are excited about is this little button to the right side, AI Assistant. Obviously, a development product these days cannot have not AI. So we had. You don't see much.
I thought that was the cinnamon roll button. I was excited.
That's great. Let me put my password in for some reason multiple times. Come on!
It's like,
Are you sure
that's not it.
So I want to hear about this. Yeah, I'm excited to hear about this AI assistant.
Okay.
We had an AI
so
episode.
AI Assistant comes with a bunch of features, and some of them are cool in very certain contexts, I think, and some of them are things that I would use right away. So one thing that you can do with AI Assistant, it uses the same keyboard shortcut as 1Password. So 1Password is a little bit more strict about that. So you can ask AI like, hey, please explain this code to me.
Wait, what?
And the thing where our the thing where our AI assistant is really cool is we use machine learning to identify which files and contexts is worth sharing with the language model. So you don't need to be like a prompt engineer to know like, okay, this is how I shape the prompt to get the best results out of that. We support you with that by knowing in which context you are. So for instance, we share the recent files, like there's like the files you've recently visited, or we tell AI, hey, this is an Angular project, because we check your package.json and see, oh, there's Angular, so this is an Angular project. And now it's like, okay, all this context. So I'm not going over this, but you can use it to explain code. And I also used it, and I think this even made it in like our AI assistant videos, or in like the JetBrains TV YouTube channel. We have a whole video on like all the features of AI assistant. But I was basically doing a lead code example, right? So usually how those lead code examples work, there's an obvious solution that don't hit the performance quality goals. So like you write something as intuitive as you would. Most tests are successful, but then there are like tests that have like 10 million input values, and those don't hit the performance metric. So I was like, hey, I have this code, the tests are good except the performance tests, so make this more performant. And was coming like with this whole like result of like, okay, you're using big O notation of whatever. I'm like, okay, I don't want to deal with this, make it fast. And then it showed me the code. I can actually, let's do something. Where do we have some code? Okay. Do we have some code here? Why is this all? Okay. Where's some good code? Okay. Let me jump to the other. Where's some good code that I could show that? Fibonacci takes always 2 numbers. I think so.
So you're going to write some code, and then you're going to ask the AI assistant to improve it?
Yes. So I'm pretty sure Fibonacci is not just number 1 and number 2. Let's just to be a little bit more specific, calculate. Fibonacci is 2 numbers, right? Like Fibonacci.
Ask the cinnamon roll.
Oh yeah. Fibonacci
I would have to ask it how to spell Fibonacci first.
I had it open at Google, so that's why I was like, okay, that's easy. Okay, it's a series of numbers which each number after the first 2 is a sum. Okay, so the sequence you use. Okay, so you take one number and you get like all numbers. Okay. So let's do it like this and say just +0. And now.
Okay, we can just like pause right there. Like I'm good on the AI assistant. That's awesome, right? I didn't even have to leave the IDE. I got the answer for Fibonacci.
It is pretty sweet,
awesome.
and there are really nice things. There are also like things like, okay, write documentation for me, convert code to a different language, in a different programming language, which I said is a very specific scenario, but like, and it can also say like, hey, suggest refactoring, and then it would tell me like, hey, let's do this real quick. Yeah, so it's saying like, hey, this is just nonsense what you wrote there. Please fix that. And then it suggests the code. And here, that looks a little bit better, where it says like, okay, yeah.
We had a question from Lance.
Lance is asking a question that I want to ask at some point. I was waiting for the right time, but this is absolutely the question I want to ask.
That is a great question. So the thing that we're very strict about, obviously we're using other providers. Like we don't need to talk about it. We're not an AI company. We're not writing our own language or not training our own language model. So we're using OpenAI right now, but we have a very, very, very strict contract with them that they literally cannot say anything. And we're also we have it very well abstracted so that we are looking into working with other providers so that we can provide the service in different countries and all those things. So right now it's OpenAI 3.5 and 4 that we use as models. But we're also integrating some open source models right now and also talking to other providers like Google and someone else who I forgot.
Okay. And just for people who are listening audio only wise, the question was, when I use AI to analyze my code, where is that code sent? And then we have another question from Emmanuel asking about, is the AI trial time limited or feature limited?
There is a trial, I think, of like a week, and we also limit like how much you use it in that trial period. Other than that, it's an additional subscription that you basically pay for, kind of like GitHub Copilot. One thing that is, I think, unique and very interesting, particularly for enterprise, we're also looking into ways that you can use your own language models, so that you could train a language model in your company based on the code that you have, hook that up to our services, and then in all the IDEs that you use throughout your company, they could provide you suggestions based on the code you already wrote in other projects, for instance. So it wouldn't even leave your infrastructure then at that point anymore. But if you decide the code looks good, you get like this nice little diff view, which is kind of copied from our Git integration, Mike. We talked about that before. And you could say, hey, this code looks much better, so I'll just accept it. And what did it do? Well, and then you go ahead and just delete this crap. And you have a calculate Fibonacci function. Isn't that great? And it's unused because I just made this artificial example. But there is also we can talk about this a lot more, but there are also features to like, hey, explain this code to me, like refactor this, like the things you used to. And the more that people use it, the better suggestions we're going to provide. I think because that question also comes up, usually the cutoff for suggest, or the cutoff at OpenAI is 2021, something like that. So what happened, I had some RxJS code and it used the old import, and when I said like, hey, explain this code to me, it was like, yeah, you used the old import, you shouldn't use use an import from RxJS, you should like deep it, which was right at that time, but it's wrong now. So things change. So we talked about AI assistant, we talked about Angular. Technically, some particular folks that use WebStorm and Angular know we didn't have strict template checks for a while. And that's mainly based on the way we deal with Angular as a language, because we don't use the Angular language server. So strict template type checks were somewhat difficult for us. We did release that too. It's again not super public because I think we should have done this just a lot earlier and not 2-3 years after strict template checks came. But that's another thing where people that use WebStorm already will be like, oh, this is nice now. I like this. What else? Oh, I'm not 100% sure, but on the... I think it came with the version before, not quite the last, but we have support for the host directive implementation, so that you can do like, how's that? That's a fancy name. Directive composition API, right? Like use those patterns. This is something I have not used, so I will do jack shit and implement this now, because I will definitely make a mistake with that weird like syntax in the decorator. Not gonna happen, but we support this now. It works.
Nice.
We had testers for this.
How often do you guys release, by the way? Like, what's your cycle?
That's a good thing, a really good question, because we used to release 3 times a year. We have 3 big releases a year. This is somewhat that is hugely discussed right now, and some products start to shift to monthly releases now next year. I don't think for WebStorm we made a final decision. We just saw some improvements with quicker release cycles with Fleet, where we I think release every week or every 2 weeks. And it's just great for like running experiments, like, hey, is that something that folks actually use, or is that just an idea that we as developers like? So I think there is discussion whether we want to release more often. We do also have like minor releases in between, right? That are not scheduled, like bug fixes, minor improvement, things like that. But 3 big releases is at least the status quo, and I don't think there has been a final decision if WebStorm is going to change that next year.
I have a question about the code that we're looking at. This is an Angular question, not a WebStorm question. So is that cool?
That is totally cool. I've written Angular once or twice, so I feel comfortable with this.
So with the control flow, when
Yes.
you're doing a for loop, you're also allowed to have another block called empty.
Yes.
So we have an if around there, and then essentially the 2 ifs, or excuse me, the else if and the else are both essentially, there are no characters. So would it be better
That's true.
to do a for with an empty and then just an if and an else inside
Yeah.
the empty, or the if with an else if and an if else?
That's a good question. Let's
Yeah.
see how this looks, to be quite honest, because performance-wise, it probably doesn't make a difference. I would assume
Probably not, yeah.
it would behave fairly similar. That on a framework level, like UI-wise, it would be exactly the same. But basically, what you're discussing would be like, hey, we have this if else. So this if would move up here as just an if, and we're saying, okay, if we don't have a search value yet,
That would be inside the empty.
I was gonna say, is that,
that would be inside. Oh, yeah.
or do you get rid of that
No,
because it's
you're-
empty? Does empty replace that?
Well, so wait. Now let me think about the code I wrote 2 weeks ago. So we would say, okay, render all the characters, and if they are empty, we would say, no, that.
No, hold on. Move
you-
the at else inside the if.
Yes. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I like this. This looks good.
Okay. I was just curious because I was thinking about. I was like, we're provided with the empty, and it's almost like a little bit more readable,
Yeah,
legible.
yeah, I like
Not
it.
for that.
That's true.
Okay.
It also gets rid of one level of nesting, basically. Yeah. Yeah. So, if anyone wants to book Mike as a consultant, he does great code reviews.
Yeah. Mike, where's
I'm
your
excellent with
where's
your
your
if
website?
logic. If you need some help with your if and else logic, let me know.
Okay.
What do you specialize in, Brocky? If else.
I don't know.
Control flow.
That's about it.
How about else if? Are you going to be able to do else if, or is it just
No,
two?
I try to get rid of else ifs.
And I know like
Charge
Switch is
extra for
still in like RC, but like, are you gonna help with switches? Like,
I could, yeah.
okay,
It's in my wheelhouse. But I'm going to be replaced by the cinnamon bun anyway.
we're all gonna be replaced by the cinnamon bun.
That's a good point, though. Yeah. This is one thing though where I'm very curious with control flow and signals to see patterns that are emerging now,
Yeah.
because we used to do this thing, and that was where my head was with like ngIf, like okay, do ngIf, and for the else it's basically an ngIf with not the same condition. But I'm also not a big fan of template variables, so I rarely use the else block and then assign it to a template variable in the ng template. I'm not a big fan of that. So I use this like if logic and then the if not same logic a lot, and that's probably where my head was with this. But yeah, this looks pretty good. I like it.
Sorry for the detour.
No, it was great.
Oh, we can tie it back in. Is that a potential pattern that could show up when the WebStorm to say, hey, we're looking at how you're using control flow. Are there any optimizations you can make?
We want to do that.
Okay.
So one thing that we actually Piotr demonstrated to me yesterday is right now when you do it like you get this suggestion and you hit enter, just put the parentheses. It's nice, but it's not like super useful. Like, let's be real. So what it did is basically generate this and then have like placeholders for those things, because track is mandatory, so you have to fill that out.
Right.
The parameter name can technically be inferred based on, could at least attempt to infer it, but I think for now we have like basically 3 placeholders where you would say like, okay, you type in a, do tab to jump to the next, so it would jump over the off 2 characters, you say, okay, character. So we're trying to make assumption and easier. That's why I said particular, we have initial support for it. If you try to use control flow syntax during the RC phase, you just got like a mess. It looked hideous. You didn't have like any syntax highlighting. We tried to do our formatting on it because Prettier was also not there yet. So it was just like it. I think it often looked like kind of like this, and you're like, fuck that shit.
How do you read that?
What do you want me to do with this?
Now it's been a minute, but don't we have in WebStorm the ability to create our own templates like that, like live templates, so we could do some of that to get started?
We can't. That's yes. And we would actually encourage you even to do that. And if you have a pattern that you like a lot, you can file a U-track issue with us and like suggest it. But we are in a similar boat with the Angular team. Like, okay, we're considering not just adding like 300 live templates because we need to maintain it. And if you work with live templates, you know that not the best API. But let's have a quick look at it. So if we are here in live templates, we have our Angular live templates, and those are all the ones that we ship. I don't think I have any custom yet. But if we want to say like, hey, new live template, and we could. I think that's roughly the one that Enir suggested for like signal input. We would do like create a signal input. So the template text would look kind of like this. Protected signal. Okay. Some signal equal to signal.
Are you guys all good about that? Like making snippets and live templates and things? Like, are you very religious?
You're basically writing the code here that you want to display at that point where you have the template. And there's like a little bit of a template syntax where you can like define variables and those things. I'm not 100% firm on those, but live templates, and then you can define the context that you want. So we don't suggest you like view templates when you're in an Angular application. Cool.
But it's cool because you can use tokens and things, right? And then
Yes.
like that's what you're talking about with the tab is that you start the live template and then it prompts you to say, give me this name, give me that name, and you tab through and you enter them all, and then it'll replace those tokens, and now you have your code generated.
Yeah, so looking at the component here, for instance, the live template, it has this token for name component, and I can now replace it to some name. And it adjusted the selector based on that and the template URL. Usually how you do it in an Angular application, to have it like cohesive. Okay.
So there's out of the box ones that WebStorm ships with, but we also have our ability to make our own to fill in gaps or whatever specific for our needs.
And you can even check them into Git and then share them with your entire project. It's a nice thing. If you're writing Cypress or Playwright tests, we have better detection for those now. I don't have a Cypress or Playwright test, but basically, once a project identifies, hey, this is a Cypress test, you get like automatically the run configuration for this. At least if you're working with defaults, and if I don't think I have a working test in here, but if we look, yeah, absolutely not. Do we have a live template for this? Nope. But usually if you work with our IDEs, we have, actually the package JSON has something very similar. So at the test, we have like always these little play buttons where you can say, run this test, and this now applies to Cypress and Playwright tests too.
Nice.
It's a thing if you're not super.
So while we're on test,
Well,
I was just gonna say real quick while we're on test, and we were talking about the AI assistant. I think that like that's where having tests are going to really come into play really nice. Is if we already have tests and we ask the AI assistant to refactor our code, we can feel pretty comfortable about trying it out, right?
I
think those two places we're going to be like love for tests.
Let me double check, because I think for let's go to a function. Do I have a function somewhere? I think for other project, yeah, we have generate unit tests. I'm not sure how well this. Let's see. I know that for Kotlin and other like more stricter languages, it works very well. Curious. It looks surprisingly good.
Mike, did you type that out? Are you typing that out in the background?
We didn't want to tell anyone, but Mike is our AI.
He's actually the cinnamon bun. I didn't mean to out you this early. I'm sorry, Mike.
I'm very busy. There's a lot of users.
Everybody's got all these questions. Nice. All right, so you're telling me we could use the AI assistant to generate our missing test, and then use the AI assistant to make our code better and run their tests that they made for us to confirm that their fixes are okay. I like it.
Just because we're talking about we were very particular calling it AI assistant, because you should not just rely on AI. There's always like a
all right
human interaction needed, and you should really like make sure this is sane. But this looks pretty good. I would use this. I even like that they did this additional wrapper for the method. That's a pattern that I like using.
That's nice.
I personally would probably mock a little bit more out of this. This looks more like a not so much unit test, but that's a definition thing and very project specific. I'm just not a big fan of having a unit test for and then having the actual child components. But that's a me thing. I want a unit test and not a pseudo integration test. Yeah, this looks good. I like it. I accept this. Cool. Couple imports. Human errors. That's what I said. I also think I run this actually in like flat, so I'm not even sure if we have all this test set up and stuff. I'm thinking if there's anything like super relevant else, because we also have like improvements for like Svelte and Vue, but that's not the crowd to talk about those. If you're in like the context, we also have initial support for the Node.js test runner if you're writing backend tests, and because I don't remember exactly which version it is, but I think like Node 19 or something shipped like their own test runner, so that you don't have to use like Node unit or something. Would you be able to create non-fixture based? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. But we do have support for initial Node.js test runner. The API is still very limited, where like things that we provide usually in our IDE, like I said, like running just a single test, is not there yet in the Node.js API. So the experience is not quite there. But the nice thing that it also provided us to do is like file an issue with Node.js and be like, hey, this is something that we see people use often. Do you want to consider extending your API service for this? So Node.js test runner is a thing, and it comes with like a similar experience where you have like here this little play button, you can just say like play and debug, and it's nice. We missed Mike again. He must be busy doing AI stuff.
Everyone's now testing those features.
I'm eating my lunch.
Oh, lunch.
The voice from the background.
Does the AI assistant also help us with our Git commit messages?
Wait, you said that like most people need help with those. Is that what you're...
That is a... So, to be fully transparent here, we had that implemented and was working in one of the release at least for my purposes. I'm not sure if it made the final cut. Let's see.
I love it. Let's test it.
And I want to like I think it's okay. So here are the changes I did.
So if that is there, another use case is not so much writing the actual commit message, although you could do that, but it could potentially be your weekend reminder. What the heck was I doing? Generate a commit message to tell me what the heck I was doing when I last worked.
That would be super good for consultants who need like submit hours for like 5 different projects.
Oh, yeah.
The other thing that I would like to... So generate commit message works. It's pretty verbose. The other thing that I would like to see for that, and that might be more in JavaScript conventional commit thing, but looking at existing commits and then apply the same pattern. I think that would be very helpful.
Yeah.
Because a lot of projects I work on rely on conventional commits.
Right.
So, but yeah, it's very verbose, where we have like a little of a quick description and then the very verbose, like, yeah, I did some TypeScript improvements and added routing and all that stuff.
So I think I missed that briefly, but it looks like the AI assistant icon is there in the commit. Yeah, okay. And you just hit that and it does its thing.
Yes. I think, okay, let me see. Now I'm getting curious, because the other thing, yes, we have also this thing where it says you're like going through the commit, like, hey, what was this commit doing? Like, I personally would use that. I'm here to assist.
Oh man, there's a chat window.
Yes, so
I'm gonna get lost. I'm gonna have like regular conversations with this thing. That's not good for me.
I want, and we do this what's new video where we say like, hey, those are all the cool new things, and I wanted to be like funny with that, which is difficult as a German. We struggle with this. But I thought it would be hilarious if I do like the Hitchhiker's Guide thing, like what is the answer to the universe, the life, and everything.
Yeah.
And it just was like, I'm a coding AI. I don't know that.
Oh, no, it didn't say 42?
I was like, this was... I put this in our advocate channel. I was like, this was so easy. Why didn't we do this? Is this a missed opportunity? What it can do, though, is tell me a developer joke. So that's the thing that we can do. So, Alyssa, if you need for ngconf some suggestions...
So many. Let's see. Here's lighthearted. Why don't programmers like nature? It has too many... Excellent. Hey, good.
It was hilarious. The best one I've ever heard.
Like I'm a little concerned because AI is supposed to help us, and I'm going to be spending all my time asking it for jokes and questions.
Oh yeah, I mean, you're for sure gonna get a bill from WebStorm for like therapy. They're gonna be like, you gotta stop using AI for this. Like,
yeah, like let's be real. Like, this is a coding AI. Justin, let's go on.
Right. Not all my non-coding discussions are going to be done with this inanimate object. I like it. All right, that's
cool. Any other questions?
Let's see. Nothing from the chat right now. And did we hit on all of the features you wanted to highlight for this one?
Let me do like a super quick WebStorm what's new.
Excellent.
Just to make sure. Let's not go to the document draft where all the comments are, but actually to like the release. And WebStorm 2023.3. Okay. Support for signals, we talked about that. Technically I missed on that a little bit, but So if we, let's say we don't have, or we just say like, where's a good place? Okay, actually we could do this like, input search. And that's the TypeScript. Let's move this to here, just for demonstration purposes. So if we are in like an ngif and we type properly and say something like this, it should identify that this doesn't work and suggest me to, why does it not do that? Input search. Did we broke TypeScript? Again? What's happening? Restart. Restarting the TypeScript server is always a good idea. So usually, do we have like something not compiling in this file? So what I would expect is that it tells me, hey, I don't know what you're talking about with input search. So it creates a new, suggests me to create a new template, which would be nice, which is what I'm looking for. Why is it not doing this? Let's delete this.
It's because you didn't sacrifice the ritual goat to the demo gods.
I didn't.
Shoo.
I was also out of goats today. So.
You never run out of goats on a Friday. That's a Sunday thing. Mike, is it delicious? Is it a salad? In my head, you're eating salad.
It's a goat. What are you talking about?
You!
Oh, God.
Okay, one more try. Test.
There.
There we go. So it tells you like, hey, do you want to create a signal for this? So that's what I was looking for.
Was there still an option to make a method?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, there's also create method test. Okay, back to the release.
And we had a question from Vitor. Do you think AI would help you do the entire project architecture or just solve problems in a file?
Right now, I think it's just solving problems in a single file. The thing that that I would be particularly interested in are two things. So we have this like little thing where you can say, hey, I want to create a new project. I think it would be pretty cool to say, hey, I want a project with Angular based and like describe the file structure, what you're looking for. And then generate a project based on that. That you have like basically as a scaffolding tool. I think that would be a very cool thing where I could help with like the general project architecture. The other thing, and that might be a little bit of a consulting thing with my background, but usually when I do refactoring, what I do is, let's say, okay, we want to change our naming convention for Angular component. It's not app type ahead page anymore, but JetBrains type ahead page. So what I would do is I go ahead and we have refactorings for that for one component, and so if I would go in here and say like, hey, refactor, rename, that would do that for this entire component, but I want to apply this to all components that start with app. I could write a fancy regex, but let's be real, I'm not going to do that because I'm too stupid for that. So I think it would be cool if I would be like, hey, I applied this refactoring pattern, apply this to everything where it makes sense. That would be a thing that those are like the two big things that I would like to see that would help me in my development workflow at least. I don't know. I think architecture is highly driven by like a lot of constraints, like business criteria, team settings, all those things. So defining that and describing that accurately in an AI and then to consider that properly sounds very complex for me, but I'm also always surprised what they can do. So I might just underestimate AI, and once they are in like a leadership position, they're like, you are not trusting our skills. So
if you're architecture consulting, if you need help with if and else's, let me know. I'm happy to subcontract with you.
Mike Brocky, 10x if else consultant.
Love it.
2x, just if and else. Just the 2x. But I appreciate the extra boost.
Did you guys see the switch true changes for TypeScript in 5.3 or 5. Something?
What happened?
So up to you if you like things like that. I do, but you can. I'm not sure. Which TypeScript version am I on? TypeScript. I think it was later, but basically what you can do with some function, and you have like a switch, and you just say true, and then you can define the cases. And case true doesn't make much sense, I agree with that, but what you could do is like, you can define condition like, hey, if my sum variable equal to something else. And then another case being like, I can type some other variable. So you have being an equal to a number. So you have like more flexibility with what you do within the conditions while they all fit a similar purpose. And what they now provided with that is that you actually get type inference with that. So if you say like, hey, if some variable is equal to undefined, and in this case you then know, okay, some variable is undefined, and that if you use that pattern before, which I did, you don't get that inference before, and now you do. And I know switch true looks super weird if you implement it, but it's pretty cool. Like, use it. It sounds stupid.
Sounds like
switch
it's
true. Like that should just work.
Yeah, it sounds like Mike's gonna be out of his consulting of if else, because now you can just use a switch to get rid of the if else's.
Or you go to that like 3x salary, Mike.
There you go.
I like that. Because this would be NX, because, well, of course, NX, because
Sure.
there could be a infinite number of different cases.
Wait. Is that what NX actually means?
No,
No. Okay.
I don't think so.
Okay.
That was a coincidence. Rather than 10x or 2x, it was NX. Yeah, mine was math.
Narwhal extensions. I could have told you that.
What?
But you didn't.
But you
Cinnamon Bun had to tell us.
Yeah, we're over here like relying on freaking pastry.
I didn't think we
Give
were
us
going into
answers.
it, but
Today I learned. I could have seen that, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's easy to say after the fact that you knew that answer. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I was around when it was named.
Oh, I know. You were probably the one who named it.
No, I wasn't.
You were in the meeting though, and saying like, that
I
is
was
stupid.
mean.
No one will get that. All right. I don't want to like run super over. Are there any more questions?
No more from the chat. Any more from panelists? I think we're
Nothing.
Gucci. Excellent.
I just had one thing that I was going to test this thing out with. And that when you show the, create a signal or create a method, I'm curious about when my repo does not have an Angular version that has signals, is it going to know that and not suggest signal?
It should.
right.
And it definitely does for the control flow syntax. Because there the check is like, okay, if you're in an Angular application 17 RC something, because people were approaching us during the RC like, why don't you have control flow syntax? Because it's just out. Like, chill. I let me know if it doesn't, but I would expect it works the way you expect. And if you're like on Angular 14, 15, I think it came out with 16 signals, right? It shouldn't suggest those things. In the same way for standalone, where you're like, okay, make a component standalone will just happen if you're like on Angular 14, 15,
14.2, maybe?
I mean, I
Was
fully
mine
expect it to
released?
be covered because WebStorm's always got it covered. So I'd be surprised if it doesn't, but yeah, I'm going to check it.
In Angular, it's quite easy because everything is like backwards compatible, and TypeScript is such a mess.
It's hard.
I'd never said that. TypeScript is awesome. There's nothing wrong with TypeScript, other than they're not using semantic releases. No shade. It makes sense. Like I'm not judging, but it makes it hard on us. Like if you met Andre last year at NGCon, he's like the lead developer. He did like the whole TypeScript 5 migration. He was very entertained. It just took him like 3 months to get this right. So
Well, this was a very informative, very, I'm going to go to the screen, a very cool WebStorm update. And thank you so much for coming
Yeah,
on
sure.
and giving us the details and examples and live things. It was wonderful.
Sure, always happy to.
Oh, and thank you, chat. You are wonderful as always. So, picks, does anyone have anything tech related, not tech related, something you want to highlight for the past week? No.
I started watching this series on Apple TV called Monarch, Legacy
How
of
is it?
Monsters, I think it is. It's okay. It's about the whole Godzilla thing and the Monarch company that kind of brought it on or whatever. So it's like a origin story kind of deal. I'm on the fence with it because there's moments in it where the acting, the writing, and the story is awesome, and then there's other moments where it's like, wow, this is kind of cheesy. And I don't know, are they trolling us with
Oh
it and like doing that intentionally, or did they just like miss that fact
Missed
that
the
like
mark.
some of it's really good and they didn't like refine and refactor the parts that were cheesy? I don't know. So, but it's entertaining.
Okay.
Kurt
Is this
Russell's
in
in it.
relation to the new Godzilla movie that's out or not?
Hey, well, which one? There's like 30 different ones. So I think that like the Godzilla versus Kong, this is in that, IP, that world. And then there's that Godzilla -1, I think. And I don't know if that is in this realm.
I
And that
just
was supposed to be
all I
awesome.
know is that like the newest one is like its own thing. So I didn't know if it was in relation to.
The -1 I heard was like set in like the 1940s or something like that. So
Oh,
I may be wrong.
Yeah.
well, excellent.
Anyways, that's my pick. It's,
Monarch.
I don't know. It's a take it or leave it sort of thing. But it's interesting. I mean, we're watching it. So it's like 6 episodes in, 5 episodes in, something like that. Apple
When-
TV.
What time frame is that set? Is that set modern day or is that?
So that's the other thing, is that it jumps around.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
jumping you. So Kurt Russell's in it, and I think his son is in it, and his son plays the younger him. So when it jumps back in time, it's his son playing his character. So that's pretty cool. So it's jumping kind of around, but it's mostly, I think, in like 2015, after G-Day, which was the day Godzilla attacked San Francisco. I don't know. Anyways, that's my pick. I talk like I know all about it. I don't
No,
know.
I like you're all of a
Half an
sudden
episode in.
the Godzilla buff.
I
in
watched
this
the
channel.
opening. It was great.
Great trailer. 10 out of 10.
There was like a review I recently found on Amazon where they were like, I haven't actually opened it yet, but it looks great, 5 stars. And I was like, can you rate something if you haven't actually used it, seen it, opened it? So yeah, apparently you can. This is now a new thing. So
Yeah, you can. Like,
Oh.
yeah. People do.
All right, Mike, Jan,
Nothing.
anything?
I'm
Nothing.
pickless.
Yeah, I'm also kind of struggling. Like, maybe one thing I could recommend if you're doing like online stuff like that, I got a Elgato prompter, like right there. Like right there. And for people that are too stupid to look in a fucking camera, like me,
What's a prompter? Like
Wait,
blink-
like-
that thing is out?
it is out and it's pretty sweet.
what is
I
it?
want one.
Like,
it
does
is-
it show text?
Yeah, so it's like a monitor that is like in front of my camera. So I now have like StreamYard and like that stuff there. So it forces me, if I want to look at you guys, to also look in the camera.
Hang on, can you show me? Can you move your camera so I can see it?
No.
Is that no? Okay.
The camera's behind it. Like you put your camera in it.
Yeah,
Right?
It's like a teleprompter.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, it's dope. Like we all need one. We need
You're
one. I thought it was coming
breaking
out like
my
next year. I didn't know it
mind.
was actually out.
No, it
And
it
you
came
weren't
out
even
in
gonna
like
have a pick?
October, I think.
That's amazing.
And I ordered it like right away, and it was like delivered 2-3 weeks ago. And it's pretty cool. It even works for like meetings and stuff. Again, when you're too stupid to look in a freaking camera.
Yeah.
If you
That sounds,
don't,
Yeah.
that sounds fantastic. I think that our sponsors should look into purchasing those for us.
For us.
there are surprisingly affordable compared to like other prompters. Just saying.
There I didn't even know this
I-
product existed, much less with multiple companies. Amazing.
I have zero regrets getting it. It's
Okay.
nice.
Nice.
And you could chuck different things up to it. So like it
Yes.
could be the text, it could be like another window, like you mentioned, the StreamYard window, like whatever you want. And it basically overlays it near your
That is
camera so you're looking at it.
And it also has-
amazing.
I mean, Elgato is like the whole streaming company, right? So they have
Mm-hmm.
also support for like Twitch chat that you can just put the chat there and things. It's pretty
Mhm,
cool. It's very versatile and not just flying text.
That's amazing.
It's cool.
Oh my goodness. I'm so excited to look into this. Thank you. Best pick ever. I mean, Monarch's good too. They're all
No. I scratched my pick. That's the pick. I didn't know it was out. I 1,000% behind that.
Excellent. Well, I was just going to highlight that Mike and I are officially NGComp MCs again for 2024. So I'm very excited. Woo!
I'm going to have to practice holding the microphone and talking.
Please feel free to DM both of us additional dev or dad jokes, etc., parental puns for our document. But yes, I'm very, very pumped for that, and hopefully we'll get to see you there.
And just know, if you send us a joke, we will not give you credit.
We're working on our organizational skills as MCs, so maybe it's a possibility. You might get
If this
credit.
was a European conference, that would be like a data privacy stuff violation. Like, you would have to give credits.
Yeah, Mike, way to go.
I'll
going to be
come and I'll be
streamed
the
in Europe.
footer text. So I'll just stand on stage and like read out the credit every time you say something.
Yes. Yeah. Oh
Like,
my God. Yes.
Copyright infringement. Copyright infringement.
He also has like a bleep button just to like when we start saying things we're not allowed to say, you know, like. Oh God. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for your time today. You're beautiful. We're gonna have a word from our sponsors and then sign off. But thank you, chat, again. Mwah. And happy holidays to everybody. Bye.
Bye.
Angular Air is sponsored by Kendo UI for Angular. We have over 100 components built from the ground up in Angular or each framework and library that it's built for. So not only do we have Angular on the JavaScript side, but we have Kendo UI for React, jQuery, and Vue as well. And if you're on the .NET side of life, we have things for Blazor, Maui, WPF, and so much more. All of our libraries are themable, customizable, and of course come with killer professional support. So try it out for free today at kendoui.com.